Welcome to the Restricted Handling Podcast. This is what's been going on in China in the past 24 hours. We're still orbiting the same gravitational center as yesterday, the US-China summit track. But today, the focus shifts slightly from tariffs and atmospherics to something much more structural: China's military and industrial posture. Rare earths are now front and center. US aerospace and semiconductor suppliers are reporting worsening shortages of yttrium and scandium. Prices for yttrium have jumped 60% since November and are roughly 69 times higher than a year ago. That's not market noise. That's pressure. Chinese exports of yttrium products to the U.S. fell from 333 tons in the 8 months before April's export controls to just 17 tons in the 8 months after. Two North American coating suppliers have paused production. Semiconductor firms are warning about scandium shortages hitting next-generation 5G chip manufacturing, and the U.S. zero domestic scandium production. So when Beijing says it has fulfilled its trade obligations and warns against further tariffs, just understand, this is a calibrated squeeze. Not loud, not dramatic, just strategically inconvenient. Now zoom out to the military side, because while trade pressure simmers, China's defense apparatus is undergoing something closer to internal surgery. We talked before about Xi Jinping's corruption purge thinning the Central Military Commission. Here's the sharper update. Since 2022, at least 36 generals and lieutenant generals have been officially purged. Another 60 plus are missing or potentially under investigation. Over 100 senior officers affected. Former Vice Chairman Zhang Yuxia and He Weidong, out. Joint Staff Chief Liu Zhenli, out. Two former defense ministers, also gone. At this point, only one uniformed general remains on the CMC. And this isn't just cosmetic. Roughly half of the PLA's senior leadership billets have been impacted. The Rocket Force, the branch responsible for China's strategic missile arsenal, has been hit hardest. All 4 of its past commanders have been removed. If you're running nuclear forces and your entire leadership bench just rotated out, that's not routine maintenance. But here's the twist. Even with the leadership churn, the hardware machine hasn't slowed down. Satellite imagery from February 17th shows China's 4th aircraft carrier, the Type 04, under construction at Dalian. Analysts now assess it's extremely likely to be nuclear-powered. 2 reactor compartments visible, expanded engine spaces. That's a different category of naval capability. Nuclear propulsion means endurance and sustained global reach. The Fujian, China's 3rd carrier, entered service in November. U.S. defense officials believe Beijing intends to field up to 9 carriers within a decade. That's not coastal defense. That's ambition with sea legs. And in late 2025, the PLA Air Force conducted its largest Red Sword exercise observed to date. Roughly 200 aircraft across 8 air bases spanning about 1,200 nautical miles. J-20 stealth fighters, J-16s, H-6 bombers, Y-20 transports, KJ-500 early warning aircraft, 5 weeks. Meanwhile, China's aerospace industry has added roughly 8 million square feet of manufacturing space since 2021. Analysts estimate potential production of 250 to 300 4th and 5th generation fighters annually starting around 2027 or 2028. By 2029, China could have the largest fighter force in the world. So yes, the command structure is thinner, but the factory floors are not quiet. Now let's pivot back to Taiwan, because that's still the strategic fulcrum. Between Wednesday morning and Thursday morning this week, Taiwan tracked 30 PLA aircraft and 6 naval vessels operating near the island. 22 aircraft crossed the median line. 2 balloons were also spotted. For February alone, Taiwan has logged 182 aircraft sorties and 167 naval vessel operations. That rhythm hasn't slowed. What has shifted, subtly, is responsiveness. In April 2025, after a speech by Taiwan's president, it took Beijing 19 days to launch a large-scale exercise. In 2024, similar triggers produced responses in 3 to 4 days. That delay may reflect the leadership gaps we're seeing upstairs. And while we're talking about regional posture, Japan announced it will deploy medium-range surface-to-air missiles to Yonaguni Island by fiscal year 2030, operational by March 2031. Yonaguni is about 110 kilometers from Taiwan. The system has a 50-kilometer range, 360-degree coverage, and can track up to 100 targets simultaneously. An electronic warfare unit goes in next fiscal year. This is Japan quietly hardening its southwestern flank. After Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi's earlier comments about assisting in a Taiwan contingency, which we discussed previously, Beijing's reaction was economic and rhetorical. Now Tokyo is responding with hardware. Europe, meanwhile, is threading the needle. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz was in Beijing this week for his first official visit. Germany's trade deficit with China hit about 90 billion euros in 2025. Imports from China were 170.6 billion. Exports were 81.3 billion. The deficit has quadrupled since 2020. Merz publicly raised concerns about subsidies, currency policy, and critical mineral exports. He also pressed Beijing to use its influence over Moscow regarding Ukraine. At the same time, China pledged to purchase up to 120 Airbus aircraft. So while Europe talks de-risking, it's still signing contracts. It's less dramatic than headlines suggest. It's more complicated than either side wants to admit. On the cyber front, Google disrupted a Chinese-linked hacking group known as UNC 2814, or Gallium, which accessed 53 organizations across 42 countries. They used Google Sheets as part of their command and control infrastructure. Not some Hollywood cyber bunker, more like hiding in plain sight. In the U.S., former Air Force Major Gerald Brown was arrested in Indiana this week. He allegedly traveled to China in December 2023 and remained there until February 2026, training Chinese military pilots. He had previously served as an F-35 instructor and commanded units associated with nuclear delivery systems. That's not low-level expertise. And in the Philippines, authorities arrested a suspected Chinese operative using fraudulent documents, along with another individual allegedly photographing sensitive infrastructure. Manila's national police say they're ramping up counterintelligence coordination. Even Hong Kong saw a notable development. Jimmy Lai's 2022 fraud conviction was overturned, though he remains imprisoned under national security charges. Meanwhile, the father of U.S.-based activist Anna Kwok received an 8-month sentence under Article 23 for attempting to withdraw insurance funds tied to someone labeled an absconder. The legal architecture remains firmly in place. So stepping back, because this is a lot. Trade leverage tightening ahead of a summit. Military leadership undergoing sweeping purges, nuclear carrier construction advancing, fighter production scaling, Taiwan's airspace busy, Japan fortifying, Europe hedging, cyber activity persistent, espionage cases surfacing. It's not loud escalation, it's structural positioning. This isn't 1980s Cold War theater. It's export licenses, rare earth quotas, satellite imagery, and aircraft production capacity measured in square feet. And as we head toward the end of March, the runway to Beijing is clear, but it's lined with leverage on both sides. Thanks for listening and being part of the RH community. Please take a moment to leave a 5-star review. If you want to see some changes, email us at info@restrictedhandling.com. We also publish a daily written intel brief on Substack, where you'll find even deeper coverage of Russia and China, along with insights on Iran, the Middle East, and the DPRK.